right?
I think as Christians too, we need to remember that God hates divorce. And so we don't say that word. And we, pray for God to show us with new eyes a love for our husbands. It's not an option. It's our job to learn to love him. And sometimes that's hard work. And, love, I think one of the first things I learned here was that love is not a feeling. Of course you feel it, right? But you don't always feel it. It's more than that. It's a decision. It's a commitment. So to really love somebody in the covenant way, in the marriage way, is to say, I'm committed to you for life. And that means I know that sometimes I'm going to love you to pieces. And sometimes I'm just not going to stand you. So, but in all of that, I still love you. And the same, like she was saying, believe it or not, you can feel the same way about me. I just can't imagine that.
Jennifer. My children are grown now with children of their own, and I'm often concerned about what goes on in their families. What is my role as a parent of adult children and grandchildren?
Well, I'm kind of in that place too. Boy, it's a hard one because, your concerns definitely probably are legitimate, some of them. You're not in the home, you don't see the whole picture. And really, you don't have permission. If you don't have that permission to speak in, then we're just quiet and love them. I find that with my own daughters, we've stayed close. I can ask them, do you want my opinion? And if they say no, then I can be quiet. But if they say yes, and then I try really hard not to say it again, not to nag them with it. And it's really neat too, because as my grandchildren grow, I've got some teenagers now. There's things that I was definitely very concerned about with different ones when they were young, but they've outgrown them. The parents have walked them through that. They've matured, their kids have matured, and it's just really an honor to be close enough to see that. It is harder when it's not for everybody, but in my situation with my daughter-in-law, I am not as close. I feel like we're fond of each other, but there's not that space. So I just work on making sure the kids know that I love them, find a way to talk to them. The youngest one's just got cell phones, which we'll talk more about. But that's really cool that I have access to them now. How you doing today? Send me a picture of what you just did. Congratulations on that. So I just try to keep those doors open. But I really, just because I'm someone's mother, our mother-in-law doesn't give me a right to speak. So. Anybody else?
Just as she said, positive things, even if you have to think about it for a few minutes. Maybe you have somebody that's tougher to deal with, like the maybe your daughter-in-law, one that's kind of strong and you don't see eye to eye on everything. Love them anyway. You find something to do, help them out with their children, or help them out in any, just be kind, because that. You don't know what that will do in your situation for them, because maybe somebody wasn't kind to them, one of their relatives too. We never know. And I think being kind, and then have hope that their relationship can change. The right things that the Lord gives you, things change. Sometimes it's not as fast as you want, but it changes when you're kind and you're having good words and helping them in a quiet way. Things change, so don't ever give up.
I had one more thought. It just came to me really strongly, because sometimes if you've got grandchildren, the mom, might get sideways with the kid, right? So the kid's doing something and the mom's really upset. But then that gives you a chance to talk positively. This is the good I see in the kid, or I'll be, you can support them in prayer or whatever. So sometimes things go, if there's some tension there, and you can help ease that by letting them know you're praying for them and letting them know the good things you see. And I'm sure in a minute it won't last forever.
And another thing, and Jennifer just alluded to that, is I really believe as we take on different roles, particularly with our adult children and grandchildren, our primary role is prayer. Don't let that go. Don't consider that to be less important. God, first of all, God commands us to pray. And what an amazing privilege that is. So know some of the details of their lives. Don't interfere with that, but take it before the Lord and trust what He is doing in their life. And don't forget that. That's important.
I guess coming from an individual who's the daughter or the daughter-in-law, we are trying. Like, don't let that escape. It's not that we want to be a bad parent or that we want to make bad decisions. We really are trying best in the moment, and it may not be right, but we'll learn. We don't need our adult parent always still trying to hurt us. We have to hurt our own, and we will learn. As far as like in-laws, remember that your daughter-in-law or your son-in-law was not raised the same way that your children were. They might be a Christian home. They might be wonderful people, but there were different expectations. There were different goals. There were different priorities. And so that other parent is coming at it at a totally different upbringing than the one that your child had. And so your child is trying to navigate that with their spouse, and that's not easy. But being the in-law in that, just realize your daughter or son-in-law just has a totally different understanding and way of looking at the situation than you do and your child does.
Excellent job.
Thank you. Sheila, my husband is a saver and I'm a spender, and this causes so many arguments. When the kids need something and he says no, we buy it when he's not around. The kids and I keep it as our little secret. Everyone is happy. I don't see any of it. What do you think?
Everyone is happy. Wow, there's lots of things here, but probably the first thing that I would address is undermining your husband's wishes is disrespectful. There's no other word for it, ladies. That is sinful behavior on our part. We may think we're protecting our children from a behavior that we feel our husband is showing. Maybe we feel he's too harsh, he's too tight, whatever it is. He's too distracted. There could be a million things, but that is disrespectful behavior. So stop, and not only stop, ask the Lord's forgiveness because that is sin, and ask your husband's forgiveness. In terms of the spending differences, again, it's this whole issue of we bring different giftings, different behaviors to the table, different personalities. So yes, probably in every relationship in this room, there's a spender and a saver. Different degrees perhaps, but it exists. So it's just another opportunity to figure out how to live together. Some suggestions might be to, first of all, as women, allow your husband to take the key role in finances. Now, that doesn't mean that he will do everything, doesn't mean that he'll be the bill payer, the banker, the everything, but it might mean that. But give him that opportunity. Perhaps you have the better gifting for that, and likely if you do, you will be given opportunity to use that. But he is still the leader in that avenue. So there are lots of good financial help out there. We all know that one of the leading causes of divorce in any family, Christian or not, is finances. So first of all, one thing, a couple of don'ts. We do not separate our money. I see that a lot. I see that in Christian homes. We did this to protect our whatever. No, I don't believe that biblically that is what God would have us do. So visit that, think about that with your husband. There's lots of courses out there. Dave Ramsey has Financial Peace. There was one that Larry Burkett, and his organization established. So there's help in how maybe you never learned how to manage money. But you can learn those things. So ask your husband if he would sit with you and work on family budget. Talk about things, talk about money. Then another thought might be to ask your husband how you can, how he can help you spend less. Ask him, where are those areas where you feel I'm overspending? And truly be sincere about wanting to hear the answer to that. And then listen to him. I really wish you would stop buying the kids da. Listen to him, stop it. And for sure affirm your husband's leadership and authority with your children. Dad says we can't afford that right now. Dad says we should wait, that we need to try this. And we're not blaming Dad. We're not making him the bad guy. We are affirming his leadership. So that is a big area. And I have to tell you, it can raise its ugly head over and over in your marriage and relationship. So keep working at it. Keep diligent about that. It's just another area to show the world, show those that God puts in your life that God indeed is in control, and He can be in control in every avenue in your life.
Thanks, Sheila.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So what if it's a second marriage and you're older? Do you still keep your finances set? And you're older? Like, it's your second marriage and your children are adults. Do you still recommend that you share a bank account, or is it okay then to not?
Well, since I'm not that old, this is my first marriage, but I would say yes, you still share. The money is, I mean, there can be ways, things that you need to talk about and navigate through, but the principles are the same. And I know in our society that maybe it's not popular, and maybe some of you have other experiences, but biblically, I believe that God does not say, if you are in a second marriage and your children are grown and this, it looks different. I don't think that. What do you think, Jennifer?
I never thought about it before. I don't know the answer.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to, here it is.
Yeah.
That's why I don't counsel. I need more time to think about this.
Julia, this one's for you. My husband is a lot more interested in sex than I am. I often avoid him by jumping in bed and acting like I'm asleep at the end of the day. I certainly never get dressed in front of him. Do you have some more ideas on how to avoid him?
If you talk about your mother-in-law, it really helps. It really does. So I guess I don't know why I picked that question. I just say that comment and then be done with it. But it's okay. So I hate to tell you, it's not really your choice. Like, I'm sorry. You're married, and the Bible is very clear that you have a specific role to play, and your husband needs you to play that role, whether you're excited about it or not. That is part of your description when you sign your covenant, not contract. So you do have that obligation, but it shouldn't be looked at probably as an obligation. Like, the heart of the matter here is not that you're pretending you're like, why are you pretending you're asleep? Why are you in your closet hiding? I do that because I have like 12 hands coming under the door and we're wiggling the doorknob that are not my husband's, trying to break in better. But I just like, you know, I like, you have to figure out why is this so difficult? But I also think like for me personally, having clear expectations is the easiest thing for me. So talking with my husband, what are his expectations? Like how many times a week? Now it might be more and it might be less, but at least I have I know what sort of an expectation is, like a reality of the situation. It's not this, oh, every night or these things. And like I said, it might be more, it might be less, but at least you have some vague idea of what he might be thinking. And even like scheduling is okay as well, I guess. But just really the heart of the matter needs to be figured out. Like, what is it that you are dreading? Because it's a need. It's a need of his. It will help your relationship. And it is something that is a way for him to show you love, whether you see that or not. We don't always feel love in the same way. And that's not the point. He's trying, and it's a need of his, and it's a way of him to show you that he cares for you.
So Naomi taught us a lot.
About love and lovemaking and how it calms a husband's heart, and it also works on our heart and our body too. So it's a good thing physically, but
They used to have some ladies that would say, I give him little warnings that this will be a good night, like I make coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and mix it all up. And then he gets the hint, oh, she's in the mood. So he doesn't have to ask or, be clear with that. Plus, after your husband becomes so nice. So why didn't you want your husband to be so nice for the rest of the day? You used to like him like that, so you had to use your memory and you have to use a lot of Naomi's thoughts. And even if you have to start in the afternoon and be, get yourself in that mood, trust me, your husband will love you for it. So it really helps the whole family, because people are made to love you. It's a good, so.
I heard a saying recently. I've been trying to remember it and think about it. The heart cannot rejoice in what the mind rejects. So that fits into a lot of places, but I think it fits into that one. So let's remember, most of our issues as women are between our ears, and we need to, as Julia said, think about the positive things. This is a gift from the Lord. Let's consider it that way.
I think one of the best things about Naomi's teaching in this area is it gives us permission to love our guy. The world says it's kind of a nasty thing. It's not a wonderful thing. And it just opens your eyes to the fact that your husband loves you. And that's one of the ways he tells you that he loves you, with his body. If you touch his body, you touch his soul. And then we only talk about behind the bedroom door basically in February. Sometimes we do a refresher in October, but it's really something that we should talk about often, because it is so important to him to feel loved and adored and admired. And that is part of that process, is admiring who he is, admiring him, his body, mind, and soul. And that's what floats his boat. That's what makes him leave the house with the skip in his step. That's what keeps him wanting to come home. He married his girlfriend. And we want to be his mom. We want to be his sister. We want to be his nag. We want to be his controller. We want. But that friendly lover, that is a key component to loving our husbands like we should. And, as Sheila mentioned, kind of turning things around. We get so on our course. But think about the fact You know, and maybe it doesn't apply to you, but I know for myself it did. It's like, my husband married this girl who was crazy about him. And a couple of years in, I could tell you everything was wrong with him, right? And I was tired. We had 5 children in 7 years. I was exhausted, you know, and so we didn't have a lot of money. We were working hard. He was working lots of hours, you know. But Naomi taught me that you connect with him in that way. Those are all excuses. That is number one, you know. So if you need a nap in the daytime, you take it. If you need, we called it AK. That meant after the kids went to bed, that's AK, get it, after kids, we would have dinner, you know, and the kids knew they had to go in their room, they could read or whatever. I fed them early, we had our dinner, we had, you know, had a conversation by the fireplace, we went to bed, you know, that was our time. And the kids need to see that that's important to you and that that's important to dad. You know, we talk about the 10-second kiss, right? When he comes home, you give him a kiss that matters. You know, oh, there's dad across the room, the house, the wreck. Hey, over there, you know, no. Dad is home. And our dad's coming home. Let's get ready for him. He has a special place of honor and respect. And that part of that honor and respect is realizing that's what he physically needs. That's what he emotionally needs, right? And I never understood any of that. And I don't think many of us do. And unless we're modeling it for our children, I don't know where they're going to learn it either. So it's important, ladies. So that's all I say about it.
Jennifer, I have another question. This woman says, I found pornography on my husband's computer. I was just trying to buy something and a window was open. I'm shocked and very hurt. I don't even know where to start. What should I do?
Okay, we're going to change gear here very quick. So, you know, we do the best we can to love our husbands as we should. The pornography issue is above and beyond the marriage issue in our culture. It is so available. And ladies, I want to step back from that and talk about your children just for a second. You know, they're saying now that kids are exposed, well, as early as they get their phones. That's another question we may or may not have time to get to. But you know, we need to protect our children because it turns out that many of the people who are addicted to porn have sexual abuse of many kinds, shame in their background. And stemming back to the time they were very young, and it's a way of self-medicating because they're so shameful. And the thing about porn is maybe the window, she's talking about computer window, you know, maybe it's open on the computer once, but there's nothing to say that a person won't become addicted. And the thing is, you don't know that you're one of those people that will be addicted till you start the journey, right? So a person can get in so far, and addiction to pornography works physiologically just like any other kind of addiction. The brain becomes actually rewired and it cannot easily be undone. So, you know, there are things that people ask us about that we are not qualified. We are not licensed counselors or anything like that. We're talking about women to women. Somebody comes to you, they have an issue, and you say to them, well, here's what I do know, and let me see if I can point you in the right direction. You know, I'm not going to be the voice of the world saying just leave the bum, because you know what? We see so many marriages healed. It doesn't matter if it's adultery or pornography. We have women amongst us. There are precious women sitting among you who have survived these things. Okay, so it is not something you have to do alone. You are not alone in it, and it's very prevalent. So all that said, I happened to look up a ministry out of Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it's, as a matter of fact, almost everyone that I looked up was from someone who had had the experience of pornography, of these ministries, these men who got pulled into it, caught up in it, and so they want to help other people because it is so prevalent. So this one you can find in a website called whenimweak.org. And there's lots and lots of resources there, and they come, and so their main premise is that even among Christian men, the percentages are about the same. The pornography, you know, it used to be you had to go out and buy a Playboy magazine, right? Now it searching you out, and you might get a text, you might get an email, you might accidentally pop open a window on your computer, and before you know it, you're drawn in. So it is everywhere, and I'm not making an excuse. I'm just telling you that's how it tends to happen. So how do we get back out? So you find out that about your husband, you know, and we have to be honest. You know, we have to to approach it and say, what is this? What is this? You know, and is there a problem here? And not only are we dealing with whatever his issue is, we're going to have, you know, grief. You're grieving the loss of a relationship you thought you had. You know, you're mourning, you're angry, you know, you're just kind of lost. So it's a huge deal. So the first thing we work on is our own relationship with the Lord, and that's going to mean forgiveness like we never forgiven before. You know, we have an unconditional forgiveness given to us by our Father, and we have to be willing to try and give that to somebody else, and that's not easy. And that's of the Lord and the Spirit and the Word. That's how we know that God is real to us, because He works with us through those things. So, in looking through this this one ministry, I just wanted to read through a couple things. There's a woman, a lot of times the wives minister alongside the men. So the men are talking to the men, and the women are encouraging the women. But this one pastor's wife said 4 things. She said, "You didn't cause this. Most addicts suffered from abuse, abandonment, or shame, and affected their ability to be intimate. Your sex life did not cause this. You know, number 2, you can't cure this. There's no amount of anything that you can do to cure it for the person. He has to be able to do it, you know, with his work with the Lord and confession. And number 3 is you deserve to be loved, and you can be, and you will if you stick it out." Right? We give up too quickly in this world. It's a throwaway society. Well, that didn't work out. Well, that was wrong. I'm not doing that again. But God doesn't call us that. He calls us to walk forward into those things. And you know what? It's really strange, but that's where He is. He's in all those problems. That's where we find Jesus. What did David tell us in Psalm 119? I think it's 71. I was thankful that I was afflicted, because that's where I found you, God. That's when we're really seeking, and we don't look for them when things are easy. And as a wife, we need to encourage, not nag. Okay, so it's going to take some time. You're probably going to take back seat while he works through those things. I will tell you, there's a husband among us who is willing to speak with anybody who has this issue and needs some help going forward. But the key thing, according to the men and the people that talk, is it has to be in the light. You know, if we keep things in the darkness, if we shame people, if we keep it down, and the light's not on, and it doesn't go. So, and there's just the relief the men feel after they have a place to talk. So it's a big deal. This is way too small a format to talk about it all. But like I said, our goal when we're talking to them is to point them in the right direction. You know, we wouldn't say automatically leave him or it's over, it's done. We give them hope, because God gives us hope. And teach forgiveness, because that's what God teaches. So I hope that makes sense.
We are kind of running out of time. So I'm going to ask Sheila this question. The woman says, "My husband won't leave. He lets me make all of the decisions. I've told my parents about this, and they say he's worthless. They say I'm smarter and make better decisions anyway, so why am I worried about it? What should I do? I know the Bible says I should submit to him, but I don't know how if he won't leave."
Yeah, well, I would say, as Jennifer alluded to, that as a result of sin in the world, this issue has existed since the beginning of time. And until we go to be with the Lord and He gives us new bodies and new hearts and new minds for Him, it will continue to exist. So know that, first of all, it is a problem. Recognize that. There are many scriptures that talk about the wife's roles and use that word submit, which I know is not a popular word. Let's face it, it's not a popular word in my heart. I want my way. So let's recognize it. Let's ask God for forgiveness once we have identified that. And then ask God to show us the places where we have begun to do the leaving in our marriage. It can be really subversive. It can creep in and we take over because we feel it's not happening. I know for myself personally, I process very differently from my husband. So I have an immediate answer and I know that it's right. So he's much more thoughtful. And sometimes when I was reading something in Kristan's counseling session, I think it talked about the fact that we don't wait. And I thought, oh boy, that really hit me hard because that is exactly it. If there's a pause somewhere in the conversation, my assumption is he hasn't heard. And as we age, of course, hearing is an issue, so that is a possibility. But more often than that, he has heard and he's thinking. So a couple of areas, just these are very simple. We've determined that yes, God has called our husband to be the leader of our home. That is what he has called. We have a different role. Our role is to be a helpmate, to come alongside. There's differences. God has wired us that way. So we've established that already. So now what are some simple ways? Okay, here's a couple of suggestions. And this might be assuming that your husband is a believer, okay? So you're at the table, you're having dinner together, you have several children, and you turn and say, well, who's gonna pray? Shall I pray? No, stop that. Encourage your husband to just say nothing. Wow, just, stop and say nothing. And then perhaps you could say, well, would you like me to pray? Or would you like, who would you like to pray tonight? So give him that opportunity at the dinner table to be the one that either prays before the meal or assigns someone else to do that. That's very simple. Another area is when the kids are asking, kids are always asking. There's always lots of questions and demands. So maybe you're in the car, maybe you're sitting around the TV, whatever you're doing, and they're saying, Mom, can I do this? And normally they will address Mom, very likely. So just a thought, ladies, you could say, we need to see what Dad thinks about this. And then once the kids realize that they actually asked Dad, not Mom, then you stop and you wait. You don't jump in with the answer to that. What can I do? Can I do this? Can't I do that? So those are just simple ways. You watch, your husband will take the leadership. Perhaps you have stepped in too often. That, I would say, is my experience personally. I stepped in too often. Now I see as I step back, wow, he has, where was this guy? He's amazing. He has lots of wisdom and he handles things in a different way than I do. And all of that is amazing. And then affirm that in him. Wow, I really like the way you do that. When you pray for him, thank God for his spiritual leadership in your home. Maybe it's not totally there yet, but thank God for it because it's planted in him. And God will bring that out. It'll happen.
Beautiful. I just thought that was wonderful.
I think this is a good example of parents who don't know what they're talking, like bad advice from parents.
Yeah.
Right? This is the parents who said divorce or just leave. So there you go. Parents are not always correct in their advice given.
That is true. And if you do all those things, you might really say, "Oh, I really do like him." Sensitive. Then you start being amazed at what you did like about it, because you go through this mill of life and you just everybody's trying to work and make it, and you forget what you really liked about him. And it's nice to know. Or you could even write it on a piece of paper and read it once. Right? Remind yourself.
Well, ladies, thank you. We've run out of time. I have more questions, but So thank you very much for your prayerful answers. And in our second hour tables, we have some handouts for resources for you. And we can continue our conversations about questions that we have or further, for further study. So wasn't that awesome? So I made some notes. I feel like we need to do this more on a banquet day where we don't have a, real time sensitive format. So, because I could have listened for a long time. So thank you, ladies, so much for preparing and being willing to be put on the spot like that.